In this video, we will discuss character development using Munro's The Interlopers as an example. The conflict is pretty simple. Two families have argued over who owns the hunting ground for 3 generations, and they're next in line to continue that argument. However, the conflict they experience is significant because their reactions to it form their motivations. Ulrich and George are not very different from each other at the beginning. They both want to stop each other from hunting, have absolute claim to the land, and make the other guy concede who owns it. We know this because Munro tells us that, as boys, they had thirsted for one another's blood. As men, each prayed that misfortune might fall on the other, and this wind-scourged winter night, Ulrich had banded together his foresters to watch the dark forest, not in quest of 4-footed quarry, but to keep a lookout for the prowling thieves whom he suspected of being afoot from across the land boundary. Because of their motivations, they both want to kill the other guy. On top of their roaming the woods to hunt each other down, Munro tells us that each had a rifle in his hand, each had hate in his heart, and murder uppermost in his mind. They each begin with the ability to accomplish their goals, because they control men and guns. Again, Ulrich and George have very similar personalities. Both are stubborn and bitterly vengeful. However, Ulrich seems to have some sort of religious beliefs, and he prefers to make his threats openly, whereas George prefers to subtly threaten and has a pretty twisted sense of humor. Now let's look at how all of those traits change and what causes those changes. Their feud is still there, but being stuck under a tree begins to take precedence. Because of this, their motivations begin to change. They still want the conflict to end, but now in a different way. Being stuck under a tree together causes Ulrich to begin to feel compassion for the suffering man. This leads Ulrich to see the similarities between himself and George. He thinks that they have more to gain from working together than from continuing to fight. He expresses these feelings to George, who listens and accepts them. Because of the new situation they find themselves in, they begin to value friendship as a means to survival, but also as a much better alternative to endless feuding. From this experience, they learn to be more understanding and cooperative. They even work together to call out for their men. Consequently, what they want to accomplish changes. They each still want their men to come get them out, but instead of wanting to be first in order to kill his enemy, they each want to be the first to show friendship. Unfortunately for them, they are stuck out of range of their men and out of reach of their guns. They have no way to achieve their new goals now. How do the characters' changes contribute to the meaning of the story? This is the real value of analyzing character development, to either learn about what the story teaches, or about how the development moves the story along. It also means that here, there is a lot of room for individual interpretation, and the only wrong answer is one that cannot be logically and soundly defended. In this case, the plot drives the development and not the other way around. The characters change because their circumstances change. For instance, the tree falls and they react, instead of their actions causing the tree to fall. Some examples of lessons that could be learned are: enemies are not so different. Change before it's too late. Hatred has consequences. No good deed goes unpunished. Some examples of themes could include irony, or the consequences of hate. Although each man wanted to catch the other one, they both ended up stuck together. They started out as mortal enemies, but just as they decided to spare each other's lives in friendship, wolves came to kill them anyway. Concerning the consequences of hate, when they go after each other with murder in their hearts, they end up stuck under a tree. Because they spent their whole lives hating, one final act of forgiveness does not change the result of entering the woods with the intent to kill another man. Alright, here's the summary. When analyzing character development, make sure you start by identifying a character's original traits and giving evidence about how you know that. Then recognizing changes in those traits, along with what you think causes the changes. And finally, explaining how you think the character's development affects the plot, or teaches a lesson, or develops a theme.